I need you to just start. Starting is a skill, right, Max? Starting is a skill. You see, I think a lot of us can procrastinate on the things that we are meant to do, things that we know that we need to be doing. We can procrastinate a lot because there's no momentum there. Once we start a task, then, we get the ball rolling, got the momentum going, then it's easier. But I think 80% of doing a task is just having the courage to start. It's like having a giant metal wheel that is static and having to pull on it to give that initial force to break that inertia, to cultivate that momentum, to get the ball rolling, to get that wheel going. I think that a lot of us need to be mindful of this dynamic when it comes to doing our art, doing the things that we need to be doing, right? So many of us can just procrastinate. And actually there's a book written just about this, just one aspect, where it's called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And it talks about this thing called the resistance, where we will have a resistance in us and we will turn the whole world upside down to just avoid starting working on our craft. There could be several reasons. There could be, you don't want to approach the emotionally difficult thing of constantly challenging yourself and growing yourself, right? Because it's difficult. If you're practicing every single day, working away at something, it's difficult to be able to start again and again. But as you build that momentum day after day, starting again and again, then you will build an even higher momentum of just learning how to build the skill of starting. There's other habits you can also implement to help you practicing the skill of starting, where you can do like working out, under a timer. You schedule your day such that you know when are the start times of your next task. That's something that helps a lot. That's actually helped me the most. And then you can also do other things where you practice leaning into what people call the flinch. I call it, leaning into the bite. So like putting that shower to cold, doing that ice bath, right? These are techniques just to, among other things, these techniques train you to just have the courage to start the activity. I think when I first started doing practice routines like this, when I started doing speaking in front of a camera like this, I think I would just kind of sit there looking at the viewfinder, looking at my reflection without, just looking at that record button, because I was procrastinating on starting. But then as I did it more and more, I was able to continue just leaning into it, right? And then eventually when you get so good at it, when you started like hundreds of times, then it's no longer an issue. But for the things that are new for you, starting is going to be such a difficult thing. For example, when I was writing my book, for a solid, maybe like half a year or almost a year, I didn't even touch my book. I didn't even start to open the document because I was so overwhelmed with how much there was to do with it. I made this huge mess. It was an absolute gauntlet to go through. And I'm on the other side of that now. And what was most important for me was to just track me consistently showing up, right? And then I applied, the law of 100. So I made it such that I did a minimum of 100 minutes a day. And my goal initially there was to just make sure I touch the book every single day, such that I get less fearful of the book. We can be scared of things like writing a book. And I noticed, like, when I didn't write for a day or two, or three, as the days piled up, the more my fear piled up with it, along with the book, the more overwhelmed there was. But then when I actually got down to business and opened the book and started, working on it, it wasn't that big. It wasn't that difficult. And so I think one huge reason why we prevent ourselves, we hold ourselves back from starting even, is because our minds will trick us into believing that it's bigger than it actually is. Because in our mind, we try to swallow the entire whale. But in practice, you're just swallowing bite-sized pieces. And the more we can train our mind to see it that way, that we're just working on bite-sized pieces, okay, I'm going to do an hour today. I'm going to do 100 minutes today, right? 4 Pomodoros. Then it becomes easier. Then it becomes more approachable. It's chunking it down. And so the best way to get yourself into that skill of starting is schedule it in. Schedule actually like what time you need to start it by. Track it. Chunk it down such that like it's an actual sizable chunk that you dedicate. So like I like time chunks. Time chunks are good, but other times progress chunks are more important, such that like when I started, I had progress chunks of like 3,000 words a day or 5,000 words a day, depending on what my goal was. It was about 3,000. And on top of that, so you got the tracking, you're tracking in the journal, you're putting it into sizable chunks. Focus on ways you can ease yourself into it. There's examples like from Atomic Habits by James Clear, where he talks about if you want to build a running habit or a habit of going to the gym, you just practice the habit of putting on your shoes, or you just practice the habit of showing up for the gym. 1 second. So break it down into small, bite-sized chunks. And then from there, do what is called using a success spiral, where you track your progress. And okay, so the first week I managed to just put my shoes on. Perfect. Second week, let's make it go up, because I can basically, success spirals is ensuring behaviors you can repeat every single day, right? So first week, put the shoes on. Second week, walk outside for 5 minutes. Third week, walk outside for 10 minutes. Fourth week, 20 minutes. Fifth week, run for the first 10 minutes, like whatever, right? Build a progression system such that you can lock in a permanent habit. Slow progression will win. The tortoise wins the race here. Otherwise, you're just going to shock your system, shock the homeostasis in your system, and it's just going to snap back at you. Now, if you're really good at self-actualization and like managing ego backlash and stuff, you can actually make bigger changes, but that's more advanced. And it's difficult as fuck. But if you can do it, do it. Right? I'm not here to tell you what you can and cannot do, necessarily. Find your own limits. And so, with that, if you're having trouble starting that, hitting that record button, if you're having trouble, writing that first word on your page, recognize that this is a skill. Starting is a skill. And attribute like 80 to 90% of importance to just the starting of it. I mean, in a way, 100% relies on you starting it, right? But I would say 80% of skills is just being able to show up every single day. Because that's something that makes you a top 1% individual. Most people do not have the courage to show up every day. So, with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.